my first question for you is, when it comes to what is defined as a Hope operator and what a teacher can be at the Hope School in question, it says in the bill on lines 585 that a Hope operator may employ school administrators and instructional personnel who do not meet the requirements of Florida Statute 1012.56, which is the statute that essentially outlines the process for teacher certification. So my question is that if these Hope schools are serving the most vulnerable student populations, why is it that we are not requiring them to meet the very good standards that we have for teacher certification?
Representative Latvala.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And the teacher certification is about the certification and not the age. I know the age was mentioned earlier, and that is incorrect. It's only goes to the teacher certification part of it. Excuse me. And as was mentioned earlier, that part of the bill comes from committee hearings that we've had in our committees, and all three of them, from these highly successful charter school operators, where they have said that that is one of the barriers of why they're not coming to Florida.
Representative Smith.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you for that answer, Chair Latvala. I'm sure that they do see that teacher certification requirements are an obstacle, but I'm just trying to understand, if this is the most vulnerable student population, shouldn't we be not lowering our standards for experience and education? Why is it that we're lowering the standards for teachers to be teaching those students who actually they need the most skill and experience to be able to help them reach the learning gains that we've set out for them?
Representative Latvala.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And that was touched on earlier, that they, and also Chairman Baleka touched on that when he was talking and answering the questions from Representative Richardson. But I'll just go over some, because since you mentioned the learning gains and whatnot, some of the schools that have come to our committee and others, 72% of the third grade classes outperformed their local districts in reading. 79% of the third grade classes outperformed their local districts in math. That was from one of the operators that came. Another one, 80% of high school graduates will be the first in their families to attend and graduate college. Also, the students outperformed their host districts in the states in English, language arts, and math. That was from a second operator. From a third operator, in 2015, they outperformed the state that they operated in student achievement, student progress, and closing the performing gaps in post-secondary readiness. That same operator, for 11 consecutive years, have had a 100% college acceptance rate from their students. So these operators have shown learning gains and shown successes where they operate using the model that they have implemented in those states.
Representative Smith.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I understand that, and I think what I'll do is I'll address your answers to my questions in debate tomorrow as far as the discrepancy in the results. But if other school teachers and other school districts are also demonstrating those results, I mean, are we suggesting with this bill that if they hit a certain educational standard that in our public schools, we should just say we no longer requiring for those teachers to be certified?
Representative Latvala.
What we are suggesting, and thank you, Madam Speaker, what we are suggesting with this bill is having students that are in a failure factors year after year, having 115 schools where students have no hope because they are failing year after year after year, having 70,000 students in Florida that are being educated in failure factories. What we're suggesting with this bill is that's unacceptable. And so that's why we put forward this bill to try to give hope to those that currently have no hope.
Representative Smith.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'll just move on to line, let's see, 589, where it talks about the average class size. So what we're saying here in the bill is that the average charter class size will be determined at the school level instead of the required or needed classroom level. So if we're moving students from overcrowded traditional public schools, but we're moving them into a system where there is no requirement for that overcrowding to be addressed at the classroom level, how is it that we can expect success when we've once again lowered the standards for classroom size in the bill?
Representative Latvala.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and that is current law for any school of choice.